Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And listen, I am going to give you guys a recap of this opening day of trial. What a mess. Okay, what a mess, what a mess, what a mess. And so it's going to be, it may seem like it's all over the place. I told you guys in my last video that I am basically following as many people as I can. Reporters that are live tweeting or supposed to be live tweeting. And then I am going to compile that together and bring you guys a recap. So if it sounds like I'm being redundant, it is because I am going through each reporter's tweets as I'm bringing you the information, because each one presents like a little tidbit more than the one before them or the one after them, and then you can hopefully piece it together and get a good idea of what happened during the trial. So we shall be back in a minute. Okay, before we get started, I wanted to point out, you guys know when I was covering the case in the Eastern District of New York, I was purchasing the transcripts. I will not be doing that this time. However, YouTuber Just Jazz Only, I believe is her YouTube name. But her and another YouTuber are trying to purchase transcripts, and they are basically saying that anyone who makes a donation towards the transcripts will get a copy emailed to them, and then you can do whatever you want with the transcripts. You can use them on your own channel. You can share them with other people, share them with other bloggers. They talked about the price of the transcripts, and you guys know these transcripts are expensive, because there were days in the Eastern District of New York where I paid over $300 just for that one day's transcript. And the reason they're so expensive is because when you're getting them as the trial is actually taking place, the court reporter has to go back and then quickly prepare the transcripts, make sure redactions are done and that type of thing in order to get them out. So they are working directly with a court reporter who has agreed to get the transcripts to them the following morning. So in the morning, they should get the full transcripts for today. And so I am looking into possibly making donations to them to try and get the actual transcript so I can do a full reading. But as of now, we are just doing these recaps from these Twitter posts from these reporters that are actually in the courtroom. So let's go ahead and get started with today. So today was the opening statements, and you guys know that they sat a jury yesterday, and you can check out the video where I talk about the jury, and I actually list the makeup of the jury. Well, we're already down one person. Okay, one of the African American women, not women's, an African American woman has been removed from the jury because she called in sick. Like, how do you call sick on the first day? She said that she was having trouble with her leg, and so she didn't think she was going to be able to sit through a month-long trial, and so she has been replaced with one of the alternates who is a white woman. So let's start out with Megan. Did I want to start out with Megan? I think I started out with Megan, then Megan kind of disappeared, and then she's going to pick back up later in the document. So she starts out by saying, "Good morning, Chicago. We're awaiting opening statements in Kelly's second federal trial. Judge Harry Leinenweber takes the bench with a pronouncement. Things are never intended to be easy, so we're off to an ominous start. One juror has been excused due to a medical issue, Landon Weber says. She will be replaced by an alternate. Two other jurors are stuck on a late train. Prosecutors' opening statements begin in plain terms, and they get up there and they say the defendant, Robert Kelly, was doing things with children. He made tapes of himself with them, and that these two defendants, Derrel McDavid and Milton Brown, knew about it. And so I'm sure they said a whole lot more than that, but that was all Megan had to contribute to the conversation at that point. So then I moved over to John Seidel, and John Seidel was doing okay for the most part, but then when we got to the actual witnesses being called, I realized John Seidel was only telling us, giving tweets about the prosecution, questioning them, or their side, but then they didn't do any cross-examination. I was like, okay, wait a minute, did the defense not get up and cross-examine these people? Because you're not posting this. And of course he didn't reply. So then I was able to go over and find Jason Mesner and Michael Term. I'll get his name right further down. But anyway, so this is what Jason Seidel had to contribute to the conversation. And I thought he was going to be unbiased because I believe he's friends with Derrel McDavid or either Derrel McDavid's attorneys, but he didn't put any of their cross-examination. So he says opening statements. Let me go back up here. Opening statements are expected to begin after 10 a.m. and last at least 3 hours. When they're over, government investigators are expected to take the stand as the trial's first witnesses. Judge says a juror called this morning to say she was having leg problems and can't sit or walk. She has already been removed from the jury and replaced by an alternate. Others on a train that is running late. The juror who has been removed was a black female who has now been replaced by a white female. Deleted an earlier tweet about the removed juror. There's confusion over who left. The jurors all got new numbers Tuesday, but sounds like the judge might still be using their old numbers. So he confused. So either way, the removed juror was a black female, now replaced by a white female. The late jurors have arrived. Kelly's opening statements to begin shortly. USA. And so this is where it begins. Then this is the Assistant United States Attorney speaking. The defendant, Robert Kelly, they was just using some vulgar language, but basically was doing the do with certain individuals. He made videotapes of himself doing it with these individuals, and these two defendants, Derrel McDavid and Milton Brown, knew about it. Kelly had another side, a hidden side, a dark side that he, along with the help of McDavid and Brown, did not allow the world to see for years. By the way, sounds like the prosecutor speaking is Jason Julian, who just happened to be a black man. We only have audio in the overflow room. So the prosecutor is explaining to juries that they will have to watch videos of graphic abuse of one of Kelly's alleged victims, who he is calling Jane, but we know to be Rishona. And ain't it funny that the two most prominent fools in both of these cases, we had Ariel over there in the Eastern District of New York going by Jane, and now we got Rishona going by Jane. Like, is it purely coincidence or what? Anyway, it says, you're also going to hear from Rishona about the videos, the prosecutor says. Rishona is going to testify. He tells the jurors to keep an ear out while watching the videos for just how many times Kelly and Jane discuss Rishona's age as being 14. Kelly did things with Rishona's friends too. So evidently, these other people in this indictment are allegedly friends of Rishona's. How convenient is that? Now, this is the first time we done heard about this. One was 16 and another was 14 or 15. Now, where were those people during the first trial? Was there anybody else in the first trial that was in the video that could have got up there and said, well, that was me, and then I know that was Rishona also? Anyway, so here's where the trouble starts brewing for Kelly, McDavid, and Brown. He says a video of Kelly and Rishona leaked to the public in late 2001 or 2002. The prosecutor says Kelly sent sent Rishona and her family out of the country for a month, all expenses paid. Rishona's mother is expected to tell jurors she feared for the family's physical safety when the video of Kelly and Rishona went public in 2002. Rishona got a tattoo with Kelly's name inside a heart around that time. Okay, what's up with these chicks and these tattoos? Because isn't that what that dingy behind Geronda Pace did? Went and got a tattoo, and then Dominique got a tattoo. Oh my God, the mental illness is running rampant. So McDavid also discussed with Rishona getting rid of a necklace she wore in the video because it also appeared in her passport photo. Then Julian says Kelly became Rishona's family's only source of income. Yeah, right. That man was good enough drama that he could have went out and got a job with anybody he wanted. So let's see. The prosecutor is now talking about Lisa. We know that's Lisa Van Allen, who had sex with Kelly and Rishona, says she was 18 when she met Kelly in 1998, having just crossed the age threshold. And I know y'all go back and forth about Lisa Van Allen and her age, and I really don't understand why. So Lisa Van Allen's birthday is in June of whatever year, child. She claims she was June 1980 is her birthday. So if she met him in 1998, right? She's always said 97 or 98. Like, I've never heard her say definitively either year, 97 or 98. And then people came out and said that she said that she met him on the set of the video for Home Alone, I believe is the video, and that video was made in November of 98. And at that point, that's when she said, okay, well then I was 18 at the time. And so when they say 98, remember from January to June, she would have been 17. And from her birthday in June to December, she would have been 18. And so I don't put a lot of stock in her saying that she was 17 or 18. The fact that she said she met him in 97 or 98. And so when y'all went to digging and came out and said, well, girl, if you was in the video and you met him on the set of the video, then you had to be 18. And that was in November 98. And so that kind of like solved the mystery, right? So moving on, Julian is detailing the ins and outs of efforts allegedly made to track down videos of Kelly having sex with Rishona in the lead up to Kelly's 2008 trial. Says Kelly told Lisa to strip down and get in the jacuzzi before talking to her. So then now Julian is talking. Rishona's going to tell you that Kelly kept her hidden away, hotels and other places throughout the 2008 criminal charge. Okay, now let's stop right there, because not charge, y'all, criminal trial. Wasn't the trial, we're going to go back to Geronda missing all these days from school. Wasn't the trial April through June? Shouldn't school have been in? Because I know here where I live at, school don't get out to June. Okay, and if you had to miss school for 2 whole months, your parents most likely would be in jail for truancy if they couldn't produce some hospital bills or show that you went to live with the grandmama somewhere else, but you were enrolled in school in whatever school district grandma lived in, other than those two things, or you were now homeschooling your child and could prove it, you going to jail if your child missed that many days of school. So they claiming that child, they was in hiding throughout that trial, and says that Kelly told Lisa, okay, got to that part, let me get back where I'm at, that Kelly was acquitted in that state case in 2008, but Kelly, McDavid, and Brown, they still had to keep their secrets. So prosecutor tells the jury they will see videos 1, 2, and 3, but not 4. Okay, well, where's video 4? So he also reminds the jurors that the alleged victims are older now. Rashona was 13 or 14, but he says she's 37 years old now. So Jennifer Bonjean now starting her opening on behalf of Mr. Kelly. First of all, they need to explain how we done went from 1 video to 4 videos. Like that. That's why I need the transcripts to see, did we get into how they went from 1 video in 2002, 1 video in 2008, which was supposed to have been the same video, to now y'all up to 4 videos. But we missing a video because video 4 is not going to be, I guess, presented. So Julian also reminds the jurors that, okay, I already read that. Jennifer Bonjean now starting her opening on behalf of Mr. Kelly. Bonjean tells jurors some measure of bravery will be required by them. Bonjean tells jurors that Kelly is entitled to a fair and impartial trial, which the Constitution guarantees for all of us. There is no R. Kelly exception, she says. He gets that guarantee too. So Bonjean, it is true that Mr. Kelly is imperfect. It is true that on his journey from poverty to stardom that he stumbled along the way. We won't deny that. Bonjean says the government, which professes to care about justice, waited 2 decades to bring this case in a mob justice climate. Bonjean says video 4 in this case doesn't exist and it never existed. That's the video the feds told jurors they won't see. Bonjean says, we'll have to see. If Rashona testifies, she appeared on the key videotape with Kelly. For the last 22 years, she has adamantly denied that it was her on that video. Bonjean is telling jurors that 3 key witnesses against Kelly are criminals. Yes, they are, child. Who extorted Mr. Kelly, and all have immunity deals from the government to hide their lies and their criminal behavior. So Bonjean also raises questions about the ages of some of the alleged victims when sex acts occurred. She's telegraphed this in some of her court filings. Bonjean is done with her opening statement, in which she accused government witnesses of extortion and CP. She even said parents may have engaged in sex trafficking based on the feds' evidence. Where was she in the Eastern District of New York? Okay, she calling a thing, y'all. So we're now on break, and ahead of opening statements from Derrel McDavid's attorney. So then he goes in and he makes a comment. And he says, comment ahead of his opening from McDavid, attorney Bo Brindley. Mr. McDavid is not interested in posturing or pandering to these jurors. His defense will be all about what happened. Unlike some of what we have heard today, Mr. McDavid will never hide from the facts. Derrel McDavid attorney Vadim Glassman has begun his opening statement listing various supporting characters in the Kelly saga from the early 2000s, including the late Chicago defense attorney Ed Jensen. These are the people that Derrel McDavid hired to defend Mr. Kelly, Glassman says. Glossman says they were the only people that Derrel McDavid entered into any agreements with. He did what they directed. Each of the acts Derrel McDavid took were at the express direction of the esteemed professionals that agreed that these were the right and legal things to do to best defend their client, Glossman says. Should be noted that Glossman began his legal career working with Edward Jensen, who died in 2020. And then he talks about the background on Jensen. And you guys know that he was the attorney in the 2008 case. And then he came up again because he was interviewed by the Sun-Times in 2019, right before Surviving Lies, or right after Surviving Lies aired. And it was a big controversy. And then he ended up passing away. So Glossman says lawyers and managers have to rely on their clients, and a central issue is, what did Mr. Kelly say to Derrel McDavid? Glossman adds, you will learn that Robert Kelly denied it. The woman on the tape denied it. Just in, R. Kelly co-defendant Derrel McDavid will testify at trial. McDavid attorney tells jurors. McDavid's defense team seems so far to be lining up with Kelly's, at least when it comes to painting the government witnesses as criminals. Glossman says efforts to get tapes from federal witness Lisa Van Allen was led by Edward Jensen's law office. To obtain whatever tape she had to determine what was on it. Derrel McDavid never made anyone do anything. So based on analysis of the tape and grand jury testimony from the alleged victim who appeared on it, Derrel McDavid believed that the tape was a fraud, Glossman says. Another note, this was all before Glossman worked for Jensen. Glossman on Kelly's 2008 trial. Robert was found not guilty because based on what was known to everyone back then, that was the right answer. Glossman says the Sun-Times story about the tape came out on February 8, 2002, the same day that Kelly was scheduled to perform at the Olympics. McDavid opening is done. The trial on lunch break until 2 p.m. Kelly attorney Jennifer Bongine is moving for a mistrial, and I'm sure she's going to move for several mistrials throughout this case. So the motion was denied. Bongine complained about finger pointing from McDavid's lawyers, as well as the argument that McDavid was part of Kelly's legal team, which he was not. Openings for Kelly co-defendant Milton Brown is now underway. Defense attorney Kathleen Leon begins by saying the government's case against Milton Brown depends entirely on the benefit of hindsight. Okay. Opening for Brown was short. Leon said he worked for Kelly in a carefully siloed system in which every employee knew their place. Never did he believe that going about his normal everyday work duties or by virtue of taking a job with his life takes such a dramatic turn. Witness testimony is underway in Kelly's trial. First witness is Derrel Turner, a clinical psychologist. He is expected to testify about grooming and delayed reporting of abuse. I Believe I Can Fly is now being played in the R. Kelly courtroom. The witness on the stand is for the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. This is likely an attempt to establish the influence and power Kelly wielded back in the late 1990s. The feds only played a clip of the song that won Kelly 3 Grammys. And now this guy, he's like running through it, not really giving a lot of details. But when I get into the other reporters, it'll have a little more detail on what happened when these people were on the stand. So he goes on to say retired Chicago Police Department detective Daniel Everett has testified that he received a videotape in February 2002 from Jim Derogatis of the Chicago Sun-Times. Said he recognized the girl on the video as minor he previously interviewed. And so that was the end of his tweeting. So then we move on to Michael Tarm, and I had shared some of his information from jury selection. So he says opening statements to a newly impaneled jury at the Kelly trial began at 10 a.m. local time in Chicago. Kelly jurors will hear opening statements this morning at his trial in Chicago. They are expected to start around 10 a.m. Central. Follow us for coverage. And then he's also a writer for the Associated Press, and I believe he is acting as a correspondent for Court TV, who doesn't seem to be that interested in this trial. I thought at one point they said that they were going to try and cover it, do like live coverage, but they don't really seem to be too concerned at this point. And so maybe tonight they'll pick up their coverage because, it's actually testimony going on. So anyway, he talks about the opening being delayed because people are stuck on the train, and then about the lady with the leg issue who's removed from the jury and replaced by an alternate. The two people have arrived that were on the late train, and so opening should be starting soon. Then he jumps into the prosecutor is up there, and this is the Jason Julian guy. And the prosecutor tells jurors during opening statement that Kelly's trial fixing and CP, that this trial is about Kelly's dark hidden side. The prosecutor tells jurors that much of the world knew Kelly by his hit song, I Believe I Can Fly. This is Kelly's public side, he said, but Kelly had another side, a hidden side, a dark side. He added, this trial is about Kelly's hidden side. So prosecutor Jason Julian is also seeking in his opening to give jurors a sense of the scale of Kelly's alleged exploitation. And we go back up here. He tells jurors that Kelly repeatedly did things with children, young girls, when they were 14, 15, and 16 years old. And they repeatedly used the term children to try and put it in the jurors' mind that they was like little bitty kids, but they were teenagers. And which would still make it illegal, okay? But when you consider the circumstances, it's not as bad as if you're talking about somebody that's 5, 6 years old, like they're trying to put in the jurors' heads. And so a defense attorney has implored jurors. Oh, and then he said it was multiple girls, hundreds of times. Okay. A defense attorney has implored jurors during her opening at Kelly's trial not to accept what she said is the portrayal of Kelly as a monster. And then also moving back up to Julian, when he says hundreds of times, allegedly that's what Rashona has told them that they did to do hundreds of times. So I don't know when the girl went to school, when her parents saw her. Didn't she play on a sports team, like the basketball team or the volleyball team in junior high school? When did she have time to play games, go to practice? Then she was in the group for the cause. When did they have time to practice, rehearse, and travel? If she was doing the do with this grown man hundreds of times, or this grown man was doing the do with her hundreds of times. Like, when was he making music, meeting with people? It just seemed like a lot was going on. So anyway, Jennifer Bonjean said that they're going to try and portray her client as a monster. She said, when the government wants to paint him as a monster, you remember we are talking about a human being, Jennifer Bonjean said. So lawyers for Kelly's co-defendants told jurors their clients knew nothing that would make them think Kelly was doing anything illegal. Brown's lawyer said from everything he knew when the video at the center of the 2008 trial took place that it was fake. So after lunch, Kelly's lawyer renewed a call for a mistrial based on an attorney for one co-defendant, seeming to imply in openings that some video linked to Kelly was CP. She suggested that put Kelly's defense in jeopardy. The judge denied the mistrial motion. Okay. So the first witness called by prosecutors was a psychologist by the name of, he has Dale Turner here, but his name was actually Derrel Turner, who spoke about the grooming of minors by abusive adults in a bid by the government to lay the groundwork for later testimony by Kelly accusers. He spoke generally and didn't mention Kelly. So he said, for children and adults, someone you have to listen to. An adult is someone you have to listen to. The government's first witness, Derrel Turner, told jurors abusive adults use that power differential to indoctrinate and control minors. Under cross, the government's first witness, psychologist Derrel Turner, conceded he knows nothing specifically about R. Kelly and never examined Kelly, saying he was speaking broadly about his research on grooming. And I told you guys in another video, like, they had this man's resume. It was 198 pages long. He is like a career expert witness for the prosecution, has done, given his spiel at numerous, like hundreds of trials, written books, and all other manner of things. And then I think it came out, and I need to go back and check the document to see, because it seemed like he earned his degree at like an online school, because people were like clowning him on Twitter, saying that like he didn't get his degree from like a Harvard or Columbia University or some big name university. So then says the second government witness is Ann Meckelborg, a director for a company that administers the Grammys. Prosecutors are seeking to establish that Kelly was a superstar wielding enormous power in the industry. She says Kelly was nominated 26 times for a Grammy and won 3 times. In a slightly surreal stretch, prosecutors just played in court about a minute of Kelly singing his hit song, I Believe I Can Fly. They appear to want to establish for jurors not familiar with Kelly and his music that he was in fact a megastar in the 90s heading into the 2000s. So a retired Chicago detective, Daniel Everett, is the third government witness. He described how he looked into a report in 2000 that Kelly had abused Rishona, who is one of Kelly's accusers. She told Everett that Kelly never abused her and would never do anything like that to her. But a year later, he received a videotape from then Chicago Sun-Times reporter Jim Derogatis. Seems like everything always circles back to Jim Derogatis, of a male adult having sex with a girl. He said he recognized the girl as Rishona, who he had interviewed the year before. Prosecutors' opening statements began in plain terms. The defendant, Robert Kelly, had sex with multiple children. He made videotapes. Wait a minute, did I go on to somebody else? Okay, this is, okay. I think I may be on to Megan's stuff at this point. But anyway, so you guys know what the opening statement was. Prosecutors detail what's on the videos. They refer to Rishona as his goddaughter. As you listen to the dialogue, and then they talk about the fact that, remember when this new video surfaced that Michael Avenatti came up with, where in this video, which I guess wasn't in the original video from 2008, but in these newly surfaced videos, he's suddenly calling out that she's 14 and constantly making her say that she's 14. And I think that what Jennifer Bongine is going to point out is that that was not a part of the 2008 case, and that in the 2008 case, one of the reasons they found him not guilty was because they couldn't determine the age of the person, and then they didn't call Rishona to the stand out of fear that she was still going to get up there and say that it wasn't her. And so that's what made it kind of sketchy, that all of a sudden now this person, they're constantly saying the age over and over again. So then it goes on When authorities started investigating one of the tapes in the 2000s, Kelly sent Rishona and her family on a month-long trip out of the country, per prosecutors, and when they got back, they lied to authorities about the tape at Kelly's behest. As Kelly was awaiting trial in Cook County, he and the co-defendants made wide-ranging efforts to locate and cover up the other tapes of him with Rishona, per prosecutors, including one payoff that happened during the 2008 trial, they say. So jurors will only see 3 of the 4 videos at the center of the charges. Video 4, which allegedly depicts Kelly with Rishona and an adult woman, will not be shown. Efforts to cover up in some ways they were successful. Defendants managed to get back video 4. So instead, witnesses will testify about having seen that video per prosecutors. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, begins her opening by noting that many jurors said they were familiar with Kelly and some of the allegations against him. He is entitled to a non-biased jury, and that is a tall order, but you all said you could do it, she says. Prosecutors believe their evidence is going to show that he is a serial abuser. That's what they believe, and it is true that Mr. Kelly is imperfect. It is true that on his journey from poverty to stardom that he stumbled along the way. It is important when the government wants to paint him as a monster that you remember we are talking about a human being. We implore you to keep those emotions in check. So prosecutors built a case around a docuseries and social media in a mob justice climate, Bonjean continues. Kelly's defense attorney, Bonjean, trying to cast doubt on Rishona's credibility. She is only now coming forward after 22 years, and she's testifying under a grant of immunity, presumably because she'd been admitting to perjury. But there may be other crimes, Bonjean says. Oh, child. So it is entirely possible that in the climate that Mr. Kelly could also be a victim. He can of financial exploitation, extortion, those things as well. There are strong motivators out there, Bonjean said. So in openings, Darrell McDavid's attorney, Vadim Glasman, says McDavid only ever acted at the behest of Kelly's high-powered attorney. High-powered lawyers. Doing your job as lawyer and doing your job as a business manager to a superstar is not a crime. Being successful in your efforts is not a crime. And so I guess this is what Bonjean was saying, that gives the notion that Darrell McDavid was Mr. Kelly's lawyer when in fact he was not the lawyer. He was a business manager. But what Glasman was actually saying was that Kelly's attorney, Jensen, and team were doing their job as a lawyer. And then I guess he's saying that Darrell McDavid was doing his job as a business manager. And so he says being successful in your effort is not a crime. Each of these, wait, hold on a second, guys. Let me clear my throat. Okay, each of the acts Darrell McDavid took were at the express direction of the esteemed group of professionals who agreed they were the right and legal things to do, Glasman said. Glasman also notes that Darrell McDavid intends to take the stand in his own defense. McDavid reasonably believed the tape at the center of the Cook County criminal case was not legitimate and that Robert should be exonerated at trial, Glasman says. Okay, so because he believed that, there was never any intention to obstruct justice. Glasman alleges that Barry Hankerson, Aaliyah's uncle, tried to pay at least one woman to falsely claim that she did the do with Kelly while underage, and in 2002 he made a threatening call saying that a tape was coming that would ruin Kelly. McDavid suspected a setup. All right, by time Barry Hankerson get thrown in the mix. So McDavid could only act on what he knew at the time, Glassman said. The fact that Robert and the girl in the video decided to lie about it back then made it impossible to prove that his managers did anything other than what they were supposed to do. Doing your job is not a crime. I'll be in the courtroom for the afternoon. Okay, so this is Jason, the Jason Mesner guy. Let me see. He said, I'll be in the courtroom for the afternoon where they do not allow phones or laptops. Oh, then he's saying that. So that was Jason Mesner, where I said I couldn't remember whose stuff that was. And so now he's saying that he'll be in the courtroom and then to follow. Oh, no, maybe that was Megan. Okay, so that was Megan's stuff. Remember I told you I had skipped. Okay, I'm confusing myself. When I first started, I was reading Megan's stuff. Then we went to somebody else. Then we came back to Megan. And I guess I forgot to put her name up there to let me know that that was her picking back up. So I apologize for that. And so now she's saying that Jason Mesner is going to pick up because she is going to be in the actual courtroom for the rest of the day. So now we have Jason Mesner. So he says, Kelly sat hunched at the defense table throughout openings, dressed in a dark blue suit and light blue tie and wearing black eyeglasses. For the most part, he appeared to be fixing his gaze straight ahead, even when his attorney, Jennifer Bongine, introduced him to the jury. Kelly shook his head slightly at some of the prosecutor's remarks, particularly when the prosecutor alleged that one witness, Lisa, was afraid he would physically abuse her if he found out she'd taken his sex tape. Well, child, she should know because he threatened her when she took that Rolex, didn't he? Oh, well, did she steal that Rolex before or after? Anyway. She was stealing. She was a thief, and I hope they bring that up in this trial. Okay, so it says during Bongine's opening, get back up here, opening remarks, Kelly nodded his head when she told the jury he was not expecting any special treatment, just asking that they follow the law. He made videotapes of himself having sex with children. Kelly opening statements began with feds alleging Singer and co-defendants paid millions to cover up years of misconduct. Kelly's attorney says case hinges on the testimony of liars. Back in the Kelly trial, we are hearing the opening statement from Milton June Brown's lawyer. She's characterizing him as a Kelly lackey who was merely following orders from his controlling boss. He had no way of knowing whether the Kelly sex tapes were genuine or was on it. Okay. And then he says, just in, the first witness for the prosecution in the Kelly trial is Dr. Derrel Turner, an expert who will testify about sex abuse and grooming behavior. Of the P word, child. Turner is testifying now about the power differential that makes the grooming process go much smoother, particularly if the offender is someone in a position of authority, such as a teacher or coach or celebrity. And then he says, let me see. Okay, I already said that. Okay, on cross-examination now, Jennifer Bongine points out Turner has never met or interviewed Kelly and has no idea whether the allegations against him are true. Have you watched the docuseries Surviving Lies? Bongine asks. No, ma'am. Bongine picking at Turner's qualifications, pointing out that a large portion of his teaching experience was with the University of Phoenix. That's an online school, right? Ouch. Bongine asks about rates of false reporting of abuse by minors and the motivations for it. Turner says it's very rare and mostly happens in child custody or divorce cases. She's wrapping up Cross now. So the second witness for the Kelly prosecution will be Anne Meckelborg, the senior managing director for the Recording Academy, which administers the Grammys. Prosecutors are showing Meckelborg R. Kelly's list of 26 Lifetime Grammy nominations and 3 wins. Kelly's 3 Grammys are all for 1997's I Believe I Can Fly. Meckelborg testifies he won for Best R&B Vocal Performance, Best R&B Song, and Best Song Written for Motion Picture or Television. He performed it at the 1998 Grammy Awards. They're playing a snippet in court now. Every once in a while, a song comes along that touches us all in a way that is out of the ordinary, the person introducing Kelly says before the song begins. Prosecutors say that at the time of the performance, Kelly had been doing the do with his goddaughter for 2 years. Oh, child, now. Let's see. On Cross Now, Bonjean says, were you aware that the complaining victim's father in the case was on the album Love Letter, which was nominated for a Grammy in 2011? She also asked the same question about the Chocolate Factory album from 2003. When Bonjean asks about the complaining witness's father a third time, Meckelborg says, what was his name? Prompting prosecutor Jason Julian to jump up and ask for a sidebar. Bonjean tells Julian to relax, and then Linen-Weber tells Bonjean to move on. And now Meckelberg is off the stand. So the third witness for the Kelly prosecution is retired Chicago police detective Daniel Everett. Talking about Kelly's bedroom. After viewing the video, it is very obvious that this was the setting where it took place, Everett says. Direct examination is over, and Linen-Weber says trial is done for the day. Everett will be cross-examined Thursday morning. So, guys, that is just an overview of what took place in the trial today. And, you know, it would be interesting to have the transcripts because we don't get to find out, like, so where Bonjean was pointing out that Greg Lanfair continued to work with Mr. Kelly and was on these albums as part of the Grammy nomination and probably got up there and performed too. Probably was up there on that stage performing. That this was well after all of this stuff was supposedly had happened, after the the investigation started in 2002 after the grand jury testimony, and then again after the 2008 trial. Like, she's pointing out the father still worked for Mr. Kelly, and so it would be interesting to see what that actual dialogue was, the beginning and the end. And there was a couple other points where I would have just really been interested to see just how in-depth Bonjean's questioning of these people were and what information they put out. But in any event, this is the quick overview. You guys asked me to do a recap. I shall do a recap. And, as many recaps as I can, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've told you before that, they're demonetizing my videos, and I know for a fact they're going to demonetize the videos for this hearing, like the majority of the videos, just because of the language and the words that are being used. And so if you're watching this video and you are logged into your YouTube account, there is a button under the video that says thanks. And that button works the same way that it does when you are watching a live video or a premiere and you want to give a super chat. You can do that on a video, just a regular video, and it's called thanks, but you do have to be logged in. And then also, if you look into the description, you will see my PayPal. And the only reason, you guys know I never ask you to make donations or whatever, but this is taking up a lot of my time. Like, I literally had to sit there for 8 hours today reading these Twitters and putting together this document. And, that's taken away from what I actually do for a living. And so since I'm not getting the monetization on these videos, I'm just putting it out there. If you want to make a donation to give me some incentive to continue doing this, that is the way to do it. So that's it for me. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.